Okay, so I just recently did a documentary piece on a church out in New Bedford in Massachusetts. So I'm just going to start working on some of the B-roll here. We did a bunch of interviews and all that, and it's going to end up being a really nice piece. But I'm going to work on some of the B-roll here, and I'm going to kind of show you guys in the church world how you should maybe be looking at your B-roll while you're correcting it. Because what you have to realize in the church world, in the event world really, is that there's so much mixed lighting coming at everybody. And the skin is what's going to be the biggest offender. The skin and maybe the room too, right? The skin, but the skin is the biggest part. So I'm going to start to address those things. But first, I'm just going to do some techniques that I usually do before I really start digging into correction. And that is kind of bringing some of these shadows down. I can see obviously the reds are crazy, and that's because the shadows here are up. So let's bring those shadows down. Okay, we're starting to look a little bit better. It looks like the blues might need to come down a little bit, and also the greens. And the goal here is to definitely try not to go below zero here. It looks like we're a little bit below already with the reds, but I'm not too concerned about that at the moment. So, all right, so this is starting to look better. And now what I want to do next is I want to start to look at the room, and I want to look at my scopes, right? So I'm going to start using the vector in a little bit, but we're going to stick with parade for now. And I want to start to even these scopes out. You see the tip here? We want to look at this. You want to look for patterns, and you want to kind of try to, just like we did with the shadows here, we want to try to even out the tops, right? So now what I think we need to do is bring in a little bit more of a warm tone, right? And now we're seeing the green is dipped, so we're getting more pink. So we want to bring the green up. Okay? And that already, I mean, look at the image already. Look at the image just from doing those corrections. Look at his skin. Look at the room. I'm gonna get rid of these. And then I'm gonna bring them back. I mean, look at that. Unbelievable. Just that little technique there kind of cleaned up so much stuff. Now I have, the skin still looks like it might need a little bit of work, but this kind of handled it a little bit. And what I want to try to do is bring in a little bit more of the cool tone. I'm okay with kind of bringing this down a little bit and having a little bit more of a cool tone, especially in a church setting. I feel like that is, I feel like it's really warm usually in church settings. So let's come and let's bring the skin tone here in, or the skin correction. So I bring it up above the main, I have a phantom LUT here. I bring it up above the main LUT because that's very important to do. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to select the opacity layer, which is on Lumetri. And I just want to select that, and I want to look at where I'm sitting in the vector scope. The skin is, I think, better than it was. So what I want to do, so this is the skin tone line here, right? That's the skin tone. This is where the skin should be. And this is where our skin currently is. Again, this is from mixed lighting in the church. I shot this with the Sony FX9. So out in normal daylight, the skin line, the skin tone should be right on that skin line for the most part. So the camera can handle it well. It's the lighting and the room that kind of messes with the skin. So what I want to do is go to my white balance here and just show you how much of a difference this made right off the bat, right? It helped. Didn't make a huge difference according to this, right? So we go back and forth. But when we look at our image, right, from before, we know that made a big difference. So this is the first step to getting correct skin. Sometimes I'd even fix it off the bat. But what we want to do now is we want to go down to my skin layer, which is on top. I want to do hue versus hue and just come in here, just select the skin that you selected, right? And we're seeing already on this graph here that we're in the pink zone, right? We don't want to be over here. We want to be more here to here. So we want to grab this middle dot, and I'm in Premiere, so I'm going to hit Shift. I'm going to select that dot. I'm going to grab it. I'm going to bring it down until I see it just starting to lay on the line, okay? I'm not gonna go crazy and try to get it right in the center. I feel like that should be fine. I don't want him to start to look like the Hulk, and this isn't for Hollywood. I just want this to look good. All right, so now this is what his skin is starting to look like. I feel like it's looking a lot better. The room is clean, his skin is clean. Highlights, yeah, we're still kind of dealing with some of those highlights. I feel like that's just the church setting. We can try to mess with it in a little bit, but let's look at his skin, and I'm gonna turn this off and on. So this is off, on, off, on. Unbelievable, the difference. We're looking, more like an ARRI cinema camera at this point, with the skin being so correct. This is also corrected skin. So we look at these kids' faces and we see, okay, correct, and it matches, right? We're matching skin, right? So skin is all correct. And this is something that I've corrected throughout this video. I keep the skin correct. But say I just decided, you know what? I don't feel like correcting the skin here. It's going to be too much work. So now we look here and then here. Ooh, look at that difference. I mean, it breaks the whole flow of the video. In my opinion, it just yuck, right? So we want to bring that back in, and now it all matches nicely. So that's kind of what we want to do. And I'm going to mess with my highlights just a little bit more here. Oh, I didn't even touch my highlights yet. Okay, so now we're seeing these highlights. This is something you see in church settings a lot, these highlights all over. Hot spots, because there's bright lights and then there's the soft light, right, hitting certain parts of individuals' faces and all that. So we want to bring down the whites and see what that looks like. Okay, it's starting to look a little softer. Okay, so now we know what the whites look like. I want to go to my highlights now, because highlights I think will grab the actual hot spots a little better. So I kind of like what the highlights are doing a little bit better. And now let's bring the whites down in there too, because I kind of like that as well. So now that's starting to look a little bit better. And what these are going to do is take some contrast away. Not that I don't think we need much more contrast in this, but I'm going to add it in and maybe bring these shadows up a little bit and add that contrast back in. When you start bringing shadows in, you start taking down highlights, you're going to notice you're losing a lot of contrast. So I feel like that looks really good. Nice. I feel like that's correct enough for what we need. So just as a comparison, I'm going to bring in the original LUT that it was shot on. This is what it looked like when I shot it. What we're seeing is, all of this mixed lighting, these highlights, the room doesn't look the greatest. When I shot it, it looks fine. But now that I'm seeing the corrected image, man, it looks so much better. All right. So now I'm going to bring in my color bump shift, is what I call it. And I'm going to try just messing around with a few things. I'm going to grab the background, which should be blue. Perfect. And I want to get rid of this now. I want to get rid of the vector scope. I want to use the parade. And I have a double screen here. So I usually keep the parade and the vector up all the time because I'm kind of switching back and forth. So I'm going to bring up the blues. And when I bring up the blues, I'm looking at the reds in the shadows. And I don't want to go under 0, at least too much. Okay? So now I'm bringing up the blues. It's going to help skin tones. I'm going to grab his skin. I'm going to bring his skin up a little bit, just a tiny, tiny bit. Just to kind of help have him pop a little bit more. And I feel like that looks good. So let's turn that off and on, off, on, off. I feel like that looks really nice. What I want to do too is kind of grab some more of the teals and just bring them up. Now, when I see nothing really moving in here, there might not be that color, but if there is, it's going to bring it up somewhere in this image, which I want. Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of movement there when I do that. So I'm gonna kind of leave this right around here. So this looks nice. I like this image. And when you have a consistent image that looks like this throughout your whole video, you're gonna be shocked at how nice your videos start to look, how consistent they start to look. And when you start to understand these techniques and use them all the time, they start to become second nature for you, right? So you won't have to take as long, obviously, that I'm taking right now because I'm walking through step by step. So let's go to the next image here, okay? So we're kind of dealing with the same stuff, right? We have all this mixed lighting coming in, and now when we look at a white individual versus a black individual, the skin tone is going to be the exact same, right? There is no difference in the skin tone. The skin should always sit on the skin tone line, which is this line right here, right? We always want skin on that line, and we're going to see here that it's not. I can already tell that it's definitely not on that line. So first, what I want to do, even though this image is dark, I feel like my camera can handle this for the most part, right? And I'm going to start bringing this down. I'm going to bring the shadows up here. Ooh, that's starting to, it's really handling the shadows really well. It looks great. It looks great. Mostly probably because there was a lot of contrast. For whatever reason, a lot of contrast in this image. And it's looking really good. All of the almost crushed on the bottom here. You see some of the crushed blue, crushed green, crushed red. They're all kind of even, regardless of the peaks that are kind of hitting the zero line and going under a little bit. Maybe the blue could come down just a little bit. So now I'm going to look at what it was before and then what it was after. Yeah, let's bring that blue down a little bit. Okay, I'm good with that. I feel like that is starting to look really natural. Now we're gonna look at the top, right? So I am gonna start evening out. I'm gonna look at this. And sometimes I'll look at this, right? You see these points, okay? I won't really look at, there's nothing to look at necessarily in the middle. I'm sure there is, but I'm not necessarily a colorist. I just understand how to kind of make this image look better while using this my own specific way. So I'm looking at the tops and they start to look pretty even, right? And now we're seeing the green needs to come up. There's too much green in this image. Oh no, sorry, there's not enough green in this image. So we need to add that green in there. My God, it looks so much better. Look at that comparatively, right? We add that green. And man, looks amazing just by using color balance, temperature and tint, and looking at your scopes. You don't have to just look at your image and mess with it until you feel like it looks fine or it looks interesting. You really should be looking at your scopes and getting it right. And also look at your image and make sure you like the way it looks. You know, I might like it to look cooler or maybe warmer, but this is pretty natural. I usually tend to bring the warm tones down a little bit more and leave it in the cool area because I feel like, especially for a setting like this, it helps to clean it up a little bit, and I can grab her skin and bump it if I need to. And it also helps the blues to really shine. I mean, look at those blues in the back there. So this is starting to look really, really nice, okay? Next, what I want to do is grab, just like we did before, we didn't bring our skin layer in yet, but I'm going to grab my opacity and I'm going to make a box. And now I'm going to look at my vector scope. The skin is looking really good. Not really good, but it's looking good. But we can still fix that a little bit. So I want to grab her skin. I'm going to expand it a little bit again. And let's start playing with it. Ooh, so it's flattening it, which I like, but still I can tell I'm gonna need to make some more points here. So we're looking in some, it looks like some shadows here are right at the magenta line. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna select right here. I'm gonna bring this down. Now you have to be careful when you're messing with skin. You really, you can't go overboard because things will just start to look funky really, really fast. I'm going to just try this here and see what this does. And that didn't do anything for me. Let's try bringing this down. There we go. So he's starting to flatten it a little bit more. And grab this. See what happens. All right, nice. So that point kind of bent back into that line. So I don't like to have usually the skin to be in the middle of the line. I like to lean it on. That's just me. I feel like it, for whatever reason, looks a little bit better that way. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's okay. All right. So now, I mean, man, look at how this image is coming along from what it was to what it is now. It's really, really looking very, very natural, and I love it. So let's take the skin layer off and on. It's really, really subtle. But you can see, if you look at her skin, you can see, and sorry, my heat just kicked on. I live in New England, so it's freezing. It's just the sound of money just like gurgling through the pipes. All right, so skin on, skin off. It's subtle, but man, it makes a huge difference. So I'm going to turn the skin layer off, and I'm going to turn the white balance off. Look at that image. I mean, it's not horrible, right? But when you start to turn everything back on, that looks natural. Her skin looks natural. She looks like a person, right? That is the goal, especially in the church world. Again, we're not seeing a lot of highlights here, maybe a tiny bit, but that's a natural looking highlight, and that's okay. So we don't really have to mess with the highlights too much, but you're getting so much mixed light everywhere, bouncing off of everything. So now he looks natural. The background looks pretty natural. It probably wasn't that blue, but I like it. And her skin looks very natural, and I am good with that. I'm gonna bring in this color bump. I don't think I'm gonna need too much of it. I'm gonna grab her skin, and I'm gonna put my parade back on and get rid of my vector scope. And I'm gonna bring her skin up. I'm looking at the shadows and the blues, but I don't think I'm gonna have a problem going below 0. I think I already see it a little bit. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna add a little tiny bit there. And I feel like that looks really good. This one colored up great. Before, after, before color bump, after color bump. Before color bump, after color bump, right? That looks really, really good. The blues, we don't need to touch with the blues. If anything, I could dial back the blues. But I'm gonna, you know what, let's try. Let's see what happens if I dial back the blues. Because the blues are kind of hitting that 0 line. They're going below a little bit. So I'm gonna bring back the blues just a little bit. Just clean it up. And yeah, maybe, you know what, maybe I will do that. Maybe I will. I love my blues, but let's do that. I like this. This looks fantastic. Okay, that one's done. Next image, this one here. So we're not dealing with skin tones necessarily. I mean, we could try to, you know, find some skin there, but we're more dealing with the atmosphere now, right? So let's get into it. Ooh, look at that. So this is something we need to fix. You see the floor here? We don't need to fix it, but this is what you deal with a lot at church and events, is these hard, very, very hard colors that just start to fall apart, and they destroy your image. Not saying I can fix that, because shadows are historically bad for cameras, right? Highlights you can kind of help and fix. Shadows are a different story, especially with the Sony FX9. Not the easiest thing to start correcting. So what I'm going to do, you may see, this may seem counterintuitive, maybe it is, but I'm going to bring down my shadows here, and I'm going to bring down the reds. So bring down those reds, try to get rid of that hue, that shadowy red that I don't love. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this blue, and I'm going to, just like I did in the last image, I'm going to bring it. Yep. See, look at that. Look at that. It's starting to, and you can see here, it's still falling apart a little bit, right? But it's going to at least be correct, okay? So we just want it to be correct. And that was just a little tiny bump, and it helps. Okay, so I'm gonna leave it there. Now I'm going to be looking at my, so the shadows are pretty good, right? Maybe the blues could come down just a tiny, tiny bit. Maybe we leave them there. I like using my curves to do those adjustments. I feel like it's great. So let's go to temperature and tint. Now I'm looking at this. This is a pretty steep curve. Now, if I were to correct for this curve, I think maybe I'm going to correct for these points here, right? Or even these points. I won't know until I start to correct. But if I correct for these, it's going to just look it's going to look so red, right? It's nuts, right? And then I would bring this up and it looks kind of funky, obviously, right? So now I'm going to try these points here. I'm going to try to even out on those points. Where are they? Okay, so that looks like it might be more natural. And let's bring that green. Ooh, this looks like it's the one. Okay, this is more of, this is right. So I tend to look at points where I know I can line up, okay? So that's the goal here. It wasn't these bottom points, more in the shadows. It was more of the mid. It wasn't the highlights. Sometimes it is the highlights. This has more of a mid-tone to it rather than it's all highlights, right? So that's probably why those middle points worked. I'm sorry, I'm not a very technical talker here, as you can see. I'm more of a just kind of figure it out as you go. So I hope this is helping you. And now I fixed that green there, which, as we saw before, helps out skin tone a lot. What I could do also is just select her skin and just bring it down a little bit out of the magenta area, because that's what we've been seeing is it's sitting more magenta. And not that we're seeing a lot of her skin, but it's going to help the whole image really to kind of look a little bit better. So why don't we do that now? Let's go to 200%. I'm going to go to her skin. I'm going to select some of it. And I'm going to see what we got here. Let's see if we can do this. All right. Vector scope. And what are we seeing? We're seeing a little line there. Let's bring in the skin. Bring in the skin. All right. Sorry, I'm a dad. All right. Hue versus hue. Let's go in there and select that skin. And we're seeing, right? What are we seeing? We're seeing it's in that pink area, which we don't want. We want more from here on. So let's bring down that line. And I can just barely see it. Yeah, we can just barely see that line there. It's just something you got to deal with, right? Sometimes I could bump up the saturation and all that, but you know, if you're running into this and you need to bump up your saturation, you can always do that. So I feel like that for the image that we have is going to be good, right? We didn't even need to necessarily do that correction, but it's going to help out our whole image to just look a little more natural. All right. And what I mean by that is your skin tone is everywhere in the image, right? Your skin tone is going to be in these oranges. It's going to be here. It's going to be maybe on the floor here. It's going to be everywhere, and it's going to help the image to look more natural. And that's always the goal, right? The image to look as natural as it possibly can look. So let's come back to our parade and get rid of our vector. All right. And now I feel like this should be correct. All right, so let's put our skin on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off. I don't know if you're seeing it through YouTube, but what I can see is some of this here starting to get corrected to be a little bit more on the green side, getting rid of some of those pink hues that we don't love to see. Now I'm gonna grab my color bump and I'm just gonna look around here. Let's see what we got. I don't even know if I want to do anything, but let's grab her skin I'm gonna look at the blues and the shadows, and I don't want those to really, so let's do that. Let's keep it right around there. And you know what? I feel like this looks great. There's a lot of color in this. So awesome. So done. So I'm going to now show you guys kind of what we had, the way it was shot. This is how it was shot. This is the original look. Honestly, looks kind of interesting. I don't mind that look so much, but adding all this in, now this is starting to look a lot more dynamic, contrasty, very much more natural as well. Maybe what I could even do is bring down the temperature just to cool it off a little bit more. And I kind of like that. I want to cool the image off just a little bit more. I feel like that's a trend in my own head that I've been doing lately. Is just adding a little bit more cool tones and then bumping some of the warm tones, right? So that helps that teal and orange look. Okay, so we're looking pretty good. Nothing is like, you know, really dipping way under there in the shadows. So we're looking nice. I like the way this image looks. Again, this is like something that I like. Maybe you don't like it. Maybe you wouldn't like having the shadows this deep. In that case, you know, I could just bring those shadows up. And I mean, that looks awesome. That looks great. I might even start doing this, to be honest. I'm going to leave it there. Actually, no, you know what? I'm going to bring it up just a tiny bit. There we go. Let's leave it there. I love it. Done. Next image. Okay, here we go. This is classic, a classic church or event look, right? There's lots of blues, lots of pinks. Really, I mean, yeah, it's fine. But what we want to try to do is make this room start to look a little bit more natural. I don't really like all of the unnatural colors, especially on the skin. Okay, so, and we can see here in the vector, we're gonna have some problems with the blues, right? The blues are gonna be really, really crushed. So what we wanna do, obviously, you know that I like to bring these shadows down and bring, looking at this part here, I'm just lining them up. They're looking pretty good. Great. So now I'm going to grab these blues. I'm going to look for the deepest, most saturated blue, which I feel like is that. And I'm going to bring that down. And you see, here, I'll show you guys a nice big image of this. Look here underneath in the reds. I'm going to get rid, you know what, I'll just do that. And you see how it's crushed? Everything's all crushed, right? I bring that, and now it's not anymore. Not saying I fixed the guck in the blue, because the guck is always going to be there, no matter what I do with my shadows. If I correct it, it's technically correct now, right? Because the information is there to correct it. Okay, so let's come back to the image, and now I'm going to try to color balance it. So I am seeing. But you know what we're going to do first? I'm going to fix these highlights a little bit. So these highlights, I'm seeing whites. I'll bring these whites down a little bit. And I'm more looking here to try to get these off the top. The highlights. Maybe what I could do is just use the highlights, because I feel like, yeah, let's do, I don't know. Yeah, we'll do the highlights. We'll do the highlights. Highlights. Just to kind of get it off the top a little bit there. Okay, shadows. Hopefully just brings this area upwards a little bit, because her skin is a little under. It's okay for skin to be under, especially in a creative setting like this, right? It's okay. All right, so great. Everything is looking pretty good. I think I'm going to bring these blues down just a little bit. And great. We'll leave it there for now. Okay, nice. Now we're seeing it's just a little kind of bright, right? We might be able to bring the shadows down just a little bit more and add that contrast back, right? When we take away, again, when we take away highlights, we take away whites, we add shadows, we need to add contrast back in, just because you lose so much of it. Okay, now I'm gonna mess with my temperature. Okay, my temperature and my tint. So I am just going to start bringing this down and see where we lie. I feel like the temperature isn't bad right here. I know that the tint is off. All right, so I'm looking at this line, and this line. So let's bring that up. Okay, it's looking a little more natural there. See, this line and this line are kind of... All right. So I'm looking at my image as well as my scopes there. And I think I'm going to sit right around here. Again, I don't know if this is natural. This is what it looks to me, what would be natural. Okay, I'm going to sit right here. I'm looking at her jacket, and I feel like her jacket looks more natural there. All right, nice. This is a little bit more of a tricky one. I'm going to bring in a little more of those warm tones too. I feel like this looks nice with the warm tone. Okay, nice. Now her skin needs some serious work. Bring my skin tone up above there. I'm going to grab this, and I feel like this might be... I don't even know what to expect. It looks pretty green. Vector scope. All right. Yeah, I didn't know what to expect on this. So this looks funny. This looks very, very funny. All right, so I'm going to bring up the temperature, and I'm going to bring up the saturation here just so I can kind of see where this is sitting. All right. Hue versus hue. And it wasn't green. I was wrong. Bring this down. And make another dot. I'm going to make this bigger. I'm nervous I'm going to come back to the image and it's just going to look really bad. But we're going to see. Sometimes that happens. You correct your skin and everything just looks so funky because there's so much going on in the room that you never really know. All right, I'm going to leave this here and see what we got. See? Yep, I was right. It looks so funky. So in this case, oh, wait, no. I got to take my temperature back and my saturation back. Okay, so, okay. Skin, off, on, off, on, off. Not making much of a difference, but I'm going to leave it on because that was correct. Okay. So now I'm going to go back to my tint slider here. And I'm just going to kind of mess with that a little bit more. I can also, for this image, you know what I can do is I can do a split because this one's messing with me a little bit here. I can do a split and find, okay, so I know this is correct. And if I look here, I am going to now start to correct her according to what I see. Okay, so I kind of had it right with coming back on the slider a little bit. And yeah, let's leave it right around there. And maybe I mess with this. All right, I'm gonna leave it right there. I'm not gonna mess with this anymore. Let's come here. I'm gonna grab her hair. I'm gonna bring that up. And we're gonna call that a day. We're gonna call that a day there. I'm gonna grab the blue. I'm gonna see what I can do with the blue. Sorry, my dad. All right, let's call that. That looks nice. I'm gonna get rid of everything and I'm gonna show you what it was before. This was it before, right? Okay, and this is it all after. Much more natural. It goes with the flow of the video, right? Everything looks nice and natural. There's no pink hues in the skin. Everything looks nice. What I think I might do is just take out this. Well, I don't want to take out the color bump because it's adding some nice hue, but let's just bring it down. Her skin, I can't bring her skin up. It might be just in a weird place, but it is correct. So there we go. Nice. Everything looks great and natural. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching today. This is just something you got to watch out for with church, with church video clips in your service, because yeah, you're going to start to notice, especially, you know, like when we were on this clip here, these highlights are really tough. You got to watch your whites and your highlights. You don't want to go crazy with them, but bring them down just enough so the image starts to look softer. It's going to take all those hard highlights and just soften them up a little bit. And then, you know, and then you got to bring your contrast back in a little bit more after that. Be careful with your contrast. Don't go crazy. And then your skin tones, obviously there's so many mixed colors. You got to mess with your temperature sliders, and you got to get your stuff on your skin, on that skin tone line. The skin tone line, it's right here. You got to get it on that skin tone line. And if you do that with all of your images, you'll be shocked how much better your videos start to look and how much more consistent your videos start to look. So anyways, guys, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. You guys have a great 2024, and I'll see you in the next video.